There are times when all you need to do is not run, nor fight, nor insist, but stop. Stop not as if you were giving up, but as if you were withdrawing to listen to the most subtle sound there is, the silent response of the universe. Physics and neuroscience have already shown us that our mind is not just a passive reactor of reality, it is also a constant emitter, modulating an electromagnetic field around us. Joe Dispenza describes this field as a faithful mirror of our internal vibration, and Napoleon Hill already stated that every thought is a creative force. When emotion and intention are coherent, reality begins to respond almost immediately. But why then, so often, despite all our efforts, do we feel like nothing is changing? Because there is an invisible pattern, a dance between what we think, what we feel, and what we are willing to allow. Sometimes, the more we flail to control the outcome, the more noise we create, and the signal from the universe is lost. Think of a lake. When agitated, it distorts the image of the sky, but when calm, it perfectly reflects every detail, even the most delicate clouds. Our minds work the same way. This video is an invitation, not for you to abandon your dreams, but for you to experience the conscious pause, for you to feel almost palpably how the universe begins to align the next steps when you allow yourself to be silent and just be. Recognizing the invisible block that pushes away the universe's response, there is a kind of stillness that is not peace, but rather a silent tension that coils inside the chest. Many live in this space without noticing it, a constant hum of anxiety about the future, about what is yet to arrive, about how much longer they will have to wait. It is subtle, almost invisible, but it is enough to distort the way the universe perceives the signal you are sending. When the heart and the mind are not aligned, it is like trying to transmit a song on two different radio frequencies at the same time. The signal breaks, the melody becomes noise, and the message gets lost. Most people believe this misalignment is simply a matter of not thinking positively enough, but the truth runs deeper. It is not about painting a bright surface over a fractured foundation. It is about coherence, an inner resonance between the feeling you hold and the intention you project. In the field of neurocardiology, research has shown that the heart produces an electromagnetic field thousands of times stronger than the brain's. This is not just biology, it is a metaphor written into our very being. Your emotional state is not a silent passenger, it is the pilot. You can speak 1,000 affirmations, but if the emotional undercurrent contradicts them, the universe responds to the current, not the words. There is a paradox here. The more you attempt to force an outcome, the more resistance you create. Effort, when born from desperation, generates friction. You might notice this in your own life, the moments when you have chased something so urgently that it seemed to slip further away with every step. That is not because the universe is punishing you. It is because the vibration you are broadcasting is lack, and lack attracts more lack. Think of tuning an old analog radio. If you spin the dial too fast or with too much pressure, you overshoot the frequency. Static fills the air. But if you turn it slowly with presence, you feel the exact point where the music becomes clear. That moment of clarity is alignment, not only with your own internal rhythm, but with the wider rhythm of the universe. It is worth noting that this invisible block is often not born in the present moment. Many times, it is an echo from the past, the memory of disappointments, the imprint of failures, the deep-seated belief that you must fight for every scrap of goodness in life. These emotional residues linger in the body's memory, creating a low-level background noise that keeps interfering with the purity of your intention. The universe, in its own language, is constantly responding to you. But if the message it receives is contradictory, one part of you saying, "I am ready," while another whispers, "I don't trust this," then the response you get will reflect that contradiction. This is not punishment, but precision. The universe is not random. It is exact, mirroring what you truly are in this moment. This is why recognition is the first step toward any transformation. You cannot clear what you refuse to see. The invisible block becomes visible when you observe not only your thoughts, but the feeling beneath them. Not the mask you present to the world, but the quiet truth that speaks when you are alone. That truth is the real transmitter. Sometimes the simple act of pausing to listen to your internal climate reveals the misalignment. You may discover that your stated desires are coated with tension, that the image of your future comes wrapped in the fear of it not happening. This is where the deeper work begins, not by pushing harder, but by softening, by allowing the frequency to settle into coherence. The invisible block dissolves when the body, the heart, and the mind are no longer at war. When your inner atmosphere matches the reality you wish to inhabit, the universe has no choice but to reflect it back. This is not magic in the sense of breaking the laws of nature. It is magic in the sense that it aligns you so perfectly with those laws that reality responds as if by instinct. It is here, in this unseen alignment, that the first real answers begin to appear. They are rarely the thunderclaps we expect. More often they are whispers, an unexpected conversation, a sudden opportunity, a quiet knowing in the middle of an ordinary day. The invisible becomes visible, not because you forced it, but because you stopped distorting it with your own noise. The role of spiritual neuroscience in silent manifestation, the mind, when restless, believes that only visible and measurable effort produces results. It is trained to equate movement with progress, to measure worth by output. Yet beneath this cultural conditioning lies another truth. The most profound shifts often begin in stillness, in the quiet recalibration of our inner state. In the field where neuroscience and spirituality meet, there is an understanding that thought and emotion do not merely exist within us. They ripple outward, forming patterns in the electromagnetic field that surrounds the body. This is not abstract poetry, but an observable phenomenon. Heart-focused research has revealed that a coherent heart rhythm produces a harmonious signal, one that interacts with the brain to create clarity, presence, and emotional stability. This state is often called heart coherence. Heart coherence is more than a state of calm. It is a kind of energetic alignment in which the body and mind speak the same language. In moments of coherence, the brain stops broadcasting scattered impulses and begins to harmonize with the rhythm of the heart. It is here that the field you project, the unseen communication between you and the universe, becomes clear and readable. A restless mind, however, emits what could be described as a fractured signal. When anxiety floods the neural pathways, the brain shifts into survival mode, constantly scanning for threats. In this state, the universe receives a distorted broadcast, a call for protection rather than expansion. And because the universe mirrors your deepest state, it responds in kind, reinforcing the walls you unconsciously build. The silence of manifestation is not the absence of action, but the presence of alignment. It begins with the body. When breath slows, when shoulders loosen, when the chest opens, neural activity follows suit. The vagus nerve, the bridge between body and mind, carries this message of safety upward, signaling to the brain that it can shift from vigilance to openness. This is the space in which new possibilities can be received. You can imagine yourself as an antenna. The strength of your signal is not only determined by the clarity of your intention, but by the stability of your inner frequency. A bent or misaligned antenna can still receive a transmission, but the sound will be faint, filled with static. Straightening the antenna, through physiological and emotional coherence, amplifies the clarity of what you receive. There is a sacred paradox here. In our urgency to attract what we desire, we often introduce resistance into the process. The body tightens, the breath shortens, and the mind begins to chase outcomes. But in silent manifestation, you are not chasing, you are allowing. You become the steady point in the center of the current, letting the river's flow carry the message outward without interruption. From the perspective of spiritual neuroscience, intention without coherence is like sending a letter with no return address. The signal goes out, but cannot find its way back. Emotion provides the return address. When your feeling state matches the reality you are envisioning, the loop completes and the answer returns, often in ways that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence. There is a refinement in this process that defies traditional goal setting. Silent manifestation does not work in a linear fashion. It is not the direct cause and effect of the physical world, but rather an unfolding that is sensitive to your energetic state in each moment. The more consistently you hold coherence, the more the external reality organizes itself to reflect it. This is why stillness has such power. In stillness, the noise of conflicting intentions subsides. The brain and heart enter into dialogue rather than debate. You begin to feel a kind of soft expansion, as if the edges of your body dissolve, and you are no longer pushing against life, but moving with it. This is not a trance or an escape. It is an attunement, a return to your most natural state of being. When viewed through the lens of spiritual neuroscience, manifestation is less about summoning something from nothing and more about tuning yourself to a frequency that already exists. It is like adjusting a radio until the station comes in perfectly. The song was always playing. You simply had to find the point of resonance. In silent manifestation, that point of resonance is found not through more effort, but through greater presence. It is the art of becoming still enough to hear the subtle hum beneath the noise of the mind, and steady enough to hold that tone long enough for the universe to recognize it. The science affirms it. The spirit confirms it. And the lived experience proves it. When you are coherent, when your inner field is both calm and alive, the outer world begins to move in ways that defy logic, yet feel entirely natural. This is the silent conversation between you and the universe, a dialogue spoken in the language of frequency and feeling, where every word is unspoken but unmistakably heard. Unlearning false performative spirituality, there is a subtle trap on the path of awakening, the appearance of spirituality without the substance of connection. It is a performance that often begins innocently, born from a desire to be closer to the divine, to be seen as aligned, to prove perhaps more to ourselves than to others that we are on the right path. Yet this pursuit can become hollow, echoing with rituals done for the sake of appearance rather than for genuine transformation. In the modern world, spirituality has often been wrapped in the language of achievement. It becomes another arena for comparison, another way to measure worth against an invisible standard. The quiet, intimate connection with the universe is replaced by curated images, rehearsed affirmations, and practices that are repeated mechanically. The essence is lost because the focus shifts from being to appearing. True alignment is not loud. It is not always beautiful to the outside eye. It may look like silence, like sitting in the dark and listening to the raw ache in the chest, like letting the tears fall without trying to reshape them into something inspirational. It may be messy, stripped of elegance, but it is real. And reality, in its rawness, holds a frequency the universe recognizes immediately. False performative spirituality creates a disconnect between intention and embodiment. The words spoken may carry the language of abundance, but the emotional undercurrent is one of striving, proving, and seeking validation. In this gap, the field you project becomes diluted. The message you send to the universe is split, one part asking to be seen for who you are, another part asking to be seen for how well you perform the role. This is not to say that rituals, affirmations, or visualizations lack value. They can be powerful conduits for transformation, but their power is not in the repetition itself. It is in the authenticity of the emotional state that accompanies them. When you light a candle with presence, it becomes a signal. When you speak an intention with your whole being aligned, it becomes a declaration that the universe can amplify. The difference lies in depth. Mechanical spirituality skims the surface. Authentic spirituality sinks into the marrow. One leaves you waiting for a sign, the other makes you the sign. There is a quiet courage in stepping away from the performance. It means allowing the outer markers of spiritual success to fall away so you can enter the unadorned space where your soul and the universe meet without witnesses. It means being willing to be unseen in the external world so you can be truly seen in the internal one. This unlearning often begins in moments of disillusionment. Perhaps you have spoken the same affirmations for months and felt nothing change. Perhaps you have built rituals around manifestation, but noticed that the joy has faded, replaced by obligation. These moments are invitations, not to abandon your path, but to return to its source. When the layers of performance are stripped away, what remains is the raw frequency of your truth. It may not sound perfect at first, it may carry notes of doubt, grief, or longing, but it is whole, and in wholeness, there is coherence. The universe does not require you to be polished, it requires you to be real. Think of the earth before planting season. No matter how carefully you scatter seeds, if the soil has not been prepared, the roots will not take hold. Preparation is not glamorous. It involves turning over dirt, pulling weeds, and enriching the ground. But it is in this unseen work that the true harvest is secured. In the same way, your emotional field must be prepared, not through outward display, but through inward honesty. Unlearning false performative spirituality is not an act of rejection, it is an act of reclamation. You reclaim your inner voice from the noise of expectation. You reclaim your sacred connection from the demands of presentation. You return to the space where you and the universe speak in the language of presence, where each moment becomes a prayer, not because it is labeled as one, but because it is lived as one. And when you are in this space, manifestation stops feeling like a task to complete. It becomes an unfolding, a natural extension of your state of being. The field you project is no longer a mixture of borrowed words and concealed emotions. It is a pure transmission of the life you are already living within. The universe responds not to the image you curate, but to the frequency you embody when no one is watching. How the universe responds. When you surrender to the flow, there is a point in every journey where insistence gives way to release. It is not the collapse of defeat, but the softening of the grip. The moment when you allow the river to carry you instead of forcing your way upstream. Surrender in this sense is not about passivity. It is about entering into harmony with a rhythm that is older and wiser than your personal timeline. The impatience that often shadows our desires is born from the belief that we must orchestrate every step. We try to manage the timing, the form, the sequence of events, as if the universe were a reluctant partner who needs constant convincing. Yet in reality, the universe is always in motion, always responding, always arranging, not according to the noise of our demands, but to the frequency of our being. When you surrender to the flow, you shift from control to cooperation. This shift is subtle but profound. It is like loosening a knot that has been pulled tight. The tension dissolves and suddenly the rope can move freely again. In this openness, what once seemed immovable begins to change shape. The people, opportunities and moments that align with your intention start to appear, not forced into place, but arriving naturally, as if drawn to you. This is the essence of synchronicity. Carl Jung described it as meaningful coincidence, events connected not by cause and effect, but by resonance. In the space of surrender, you become more attuned to these moments. You notice the conversation that seems to answer the question you never spoke aloud. You meet someone who, without knowing, offers exactly the connection you needed. You receive the phone call at the precise moment your heart had quietly asked for reassurance. From a neurobiological perspective, surrender quiets the overactive circuits of the brain's stress response. The amygdala eases its vigilance, and the prefrontal cortex, the center of clarity and decision-making, becomes more active. This shift creates mental spaciousness, allowing you to perceive patterns and opportunities you would have missed in a state of urgency. In energetic terms, surrender removes resistance from your field. The signal you send is no longer fragmented by fear or distorted by force. It becomes a clear invitation, and the universe responds with equal clarity. It is not that you suddenly gain control over life's unfolding. Rather, you step into alignment with the unfolding that was already underway. Imagine a river. The current does not need to be pushed. It already knows its destination. Each drop of water is guided by gravity, terrain, and the natural pull toward the sea. You can fight the current, exhausting yourself in the process, or you can allow it to carry you. In surrender, you discover that the river moves faster than your own effort could ever manage, and it carries you past landscapes you might never have chosen, but which reveal themselves to be exactly what you needed. Surrender also changes your relationship with time. Instead of seeing delays as failures, you begin to recognize them as alignments in progress. The absence of immediate results no longer feels like emptiness, but like the quiet hum of preparation. There is a profound trust that what is meant for you is already moving in your direction, even if you cannot yet see it. It is important to understand that surrender is not the same as disengagement. You still act, you still make choices, you still move forward, but the movement is infused with ease rather than strain. Your actions are no longer attempts to force an outcome. They are expressions of the alignment you already feel within. In this state, manifestation becomes less about creating and more about receiving. The outer changes are simply the echo of the inner shift. You may notice that the universe begins to respond with a swiftness that feels almost uncanny. The doors that were closed begin to open without resistance. The solutions that seemed complex reveal themselves in simple, almost effortless ways. Surrendering to the flow is ultimately an act of deep trust. Trust that you are not moving through life alone, that there is a greater intelligence weaving the threads of your path, and that this intelligence is both precise and benevolent. It requires letting go of the belief that struggle is the only proof of worthiness. And when you do, you may find that the universe's responses are not always dramatic, but they are always exact. They meet you at the intersection of your readiness and your willingness to be guided. In surrender, the dance between you and the universe becomes fluid, seamless, and alive. You are no longer pushing against life. You are moving with it, carried by the same current that shapes stars, seasons, and the silent unfolding of every living thing. Throughout this journey, we have explored the quiet power of stillness, the science and spirit of coherence, the release from performative layers, and the trust required to flow with life's deeper currents. At the heart of it all lies a single truth. The universe is always responding, not to the noise of our demands, but to the clarity of our inner state. To pause is not to abandon your dreams. It is to clear the static, so that the signal can be heard by you and by the field that holds your life's unfolding. Neuroscience tells us the heart and brain communicate in ways that shape our perception and reality. Ancient wisdom reminds us that the invisible is as real as the tangible. When both meet in coherence, the universe moves in rhythm with your deepest intention. You have seen how the invisible block can distort the message, how the mind can be tuned like an instrument to resonate with the frequency of what you seek. You have witnessed the way authenticity dissolves the need for performance, allowing truth to radiate freely. And you have stepped into the understanding that surrender is not giving up, but aligning with the precision of a greater design. This is not a philosophy to admire from a distance. It is a state to inhabit. It requires trust, yes, but also a willingness to meet yourself honestly, to feel your way into alignment, and to recognize that what you desire is not a distant star, but a reflection waiting to emerge. Like the seed in the earth, unseen yet alive, your intentions are already in motion. They do not need your constant digging to grow. They need your presence, your coherence, and your trust in the timing that was always meant for you. If everything you desire is already moving toward you, what could happen if you simply stopped resisting and allowed it to arrive? This is the question that could change not just the way you manifest, but the way you live. The universe does not wait for perfect conditions. It responds to the state you hold right now. If this message has resonated with you, I invite you to join this space of transformation. Subscribe to the channel so you can continue receiving insights, reflections, and practices that deepen your connection with the unseen forces guiding your path. And before you go, keep this journey alive. On the screen, you'll find the next video waiting for you, a continuation of this conversation designed to take you deeper into your own alignment. Let this be your next step into the flow that is already calling your name.